Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Black Real Estate Dialogue Podcast. I'm very excited about this episode of Brother I've been following for quite some time. Here with me, I have Dan Wynn out of Savannah, Georgia. Dan, thanks for coming on the show, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I appreciate the invite, man. I really appreciate what you guys are doing over at Bread, so I really do appreciate that, putting on for the culture. You guys are giving out some extremely um, great content. And I know that's helping anyone that's listening to the podcast. So really appreciate what you guys are doing.
Man. Thank you. So for people in the audience, listeners who may not know you, can you just share a bit about who you are?
Yeah, Dan Wynn. I'm a Navy brat who decided to join the Army when I got older, and I run an education platform called Military CashFlow. I'm active duty military myself. I'm active duty Army, and I'm a finance officer. I used to be infantry officer. Got to do a lot of cool things. Go to Ranger school, jump out of airplanes, rappel from helicopters, all those cool things. And recently changed over to finance. So now I'm managing the budget, doing the money stuff. And we started with my partner, Mike Glaspie, who's also he's a former Special Forces weapons sergeant. And we got together, linked up together, and we created this education platform called Military CashFlow. And we help other service members build wealth and create cash flow through real estate while sharing our stories and sharing the stories of other service members that are doing the same thing. So we're all about wealth creation, man. I'm on the same tip as you do, just trying to put out content and create value and add value to whoever I can, so.
Definitely. That's cool, man. That's cool. So you mentioned you're a Navy brat. Where have you lived as, I guess, as a child, and then also as an adult in the Army? I'm sure you've been around quite a bit.
Yeah, so I don't think I've been in a school for longer than 3 years. I think 3 years is the longest I've been at one single school, and that was in high school from sophomore to my junior year. But lived in Jacksonville, Florida for the most part. My dad got stationed there a couple times. Lived in Newport, Rhode Island. Lived in Norfolk, Virginia. Lived in Cincinnati, Ohio for a little while. As an adult, I've lived in Savannah. I've lived in Savannah, Georgia. I've lived in Columbia, South Carolina. I lived in Watertown, New York, Fort Drum, Fort Jackson. And now I'm back here at Fort Stewart in Savannah again. So I really enjoy it. I've moved around a lot though. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Cool, man. So tell us more about your childhood, what that was like, and, as you grew up, what you saw or maybe what you didn't see that ultimately shaped your view of building wealth.
Yeah. So wealth creation wasn't at least talking a lot about money and finances and things like that. I think I come from a background of what a lot of listeners to our podcast, your podcast, also mine as well, where that's not really a thing. I don't know too many people, even growing up, my parents weren't investors. They weren't great with money, they were pretty much living paycheck to paycheck for the most part. Right. And money just wasn't really talked about. So I really didn't get a financial savvy upbringing. I was taken care of. My both my parents were employed. I did have both my parents. We lived in a decent area, so that was great. I mean, I guess that's as solid as a foundation as you could hope for, right? But I didn't get the financial education, right? I just got a very good upbringing, in my opinion. So.
Definitely. So what made you want to get into real estate? Given that you didn't really come from that background, what ultimately told you like, all right, cool, this is something that I want to do, and something that I want to be part of what I use to build wealth.
So real estate came about. I went to college. I went down to Orlando, Orlando at UCF. So I graduated from UCF. But the first year I went to UCF, I went there because I wanted to party. It's a big party school. I went there for a year. I wrestled for part of that year as well, and then I dropped out. And I was like, hey man, I'm not handling it for some reason. I made a dumb decision and decided to take 7 a.m. classes, knowing I'm a night, I'm a night person. I'm trying to go clubbing every night. This is when I was young, real young, but I ended up dropping out. I tried the 9 to 5 thing for a while, did that for 2 years. And, it just, I felt like that wasn't the way, right? I wasn't, satisfied with what I was doing. I didn't see any true potential payoff, right? And luckily, the company that I worked for, Cox Enterprises, where I was working at Auto Trader, I was like typing up the words in the magazine. One of my one of my coworkers, right before we got laid off, he was reading a book. It was called Automatic Millionaire by David Bach. So I read through that book, and that's where the light bulb kind of clicked, and it kind of talked a lot about the traditional way of building wealth, stocks, IRAs, 401ks, things like that. And then another time he was reading Rich Dad Poor Dad, and he passed me that book, and then I read that book, and then that kind of solidified, all right, this is what I got to do. I got to figure out some way to make my money work for me. And through Rich Dad Poor Dad, I understood, hey, real estate is an avenue to do that, right? And I'm not gonna lie. After I read the book, I was kind of upset. I was like, "Why didn't they teach us this in school? Why is this stuff not talked about? So I was a little upset, but I took that information and then I applied it. I figured out a way how I could kind of marry the two together. Right? You can't. I'm not going to say it's impossible, but it's very hard to not have any money, right, and then invest in real estate. So what most people do is kind of you'll go get a job, some kind of decently paying job, and then you start saving that way, right? Well, I looked into the military. Obviously, I came from a military background. When I read that Rich Dad Poor Dad, he was also an aviation. He was also an Army officer, or excuse me, a Marines officer, and that's kind of the route that I went. And I saw that you can make a decent living that way. There's this thing called the VA loan, which we can get into eventually, which is like the FHA loan on crack, and then and then there's just a lot of benefits and especially leadership, right, that comes along with it. These traits that can carry over to any business that I would create in the future, right? And that's ultimately what the goal was: is to create my own business. And I knew that through the military, I could gain the leadership skills while at the same time make money, to then go and parlay that into my own business, right? So.
Definitely, definitely. So tell us about the beginning, like your first deal and how that went.
So my first true investment was a single family in Jacksonville, Florida. I had owned a couple of single families before that, but those were owner occupied, right? I used the VA loan to do that. This is before I knew with the VA loan and the FHA loan, you can get a multifamily unit. Didn't know that at the time. But I ended up getting a single family unit in Jacksonville. I bought it for like 20. I literally bought it for 25,000. Put about 25,000 into it, and then the home across the street sold for 110,000. So refinanced out at 65% loan to value. I made money off the refi, and then took that money and then went and bought a 4 unit. Bought my first 4 unit. So basically, did that there. And there was a lot of lessons learned through that single family. It was just a great deal for me. I think I got it at the right time, right? It's a lot of preparation, a lot of saving on the back end, but got the deal done, and it was just a great experience. And at that point, I was hooked. I mean, it's like you really can't you
Yeah,
really can't go back from there.
yeah, man. So one thing you mentioned is that you bought the property for 25, put 25 in it, and then the property across the street sold for 110. So I have a couple follow-up questions. So that first property, was it, did you just like save up money from working and bought it cash and then use cash for the rehab as well?
Yeah, that's exactly what I did. And like I said, um, it's kind of hard to create a lot of opportunity when you don't have much money, right? So again, understanding that now this is 3 years after I was already in the army, and I already had the intent to. I'm looking at the long term. I need to save money because I want to buy properties. I want to buy assets, cash flowing assets, right? So, this is basically 2.5 years of saving slash, scraping together whatever I could. and at the same time doing a lot of self-education. I'm taking courses, listening to great podcasts like, Black Real Estate Dialogue. It wasn't out during the time, but um, but networking, that's what I was doing during that time. So a lot of people have a misconception that, hey, this is easy. This is something that I can start today and I can be rich tomorrow, but that's just not the case, right? It took 2 years, 2.5 years of saving, getting myself educated, and doing a lot of deal analyses, right? And looking through properties before actually pulling the trigger on that first deal. So yeah, to answer your question, it was a lot of savings.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. And then how did you identify this particular property? If you remember, was it through like a real estate agent on the MLS? Was it like off market? How were you able to find it?
It was actually Zillow. So I was using a bunch of different methods. I was on Bigger Pockets looking at the like for sale section there. I was already networking and going to the local RIAs, right? I was driving an hour and a half to go to Jacksonville RIA just to meet with wholesalers and other people. So that networking aspect was there. I was literally doing everything, going on Craigslist, and this one I actually just found off of Zillow. And when I say every single weekend, I was going down to Jacksonville because it's about an hour and a half drive from where I'm at right now, right? So every single weekend I was going down to Jacksonville. I'd already have something scheduled that weekend. It was pretty much time slotted out what I'm going to be doing. I was viewing properties like a madman. I had a realtor helping me go through this stuff. And, I probably analyzed or looked at maybe 100 properties, walked maybe, I'd say 40 or so, wrote offers on like 10, and then, I really got two offers accepted, but I just went with one. So that's kind of the
Wow,
numbers breakdown for you.
wow. And what's significant about what you just mentioned, man, is that you looked at 100 properties, you walked about 40 offers, you wrote offers on 10, and then got two accepted. What I want people to realize from what you said is that this takes a long time. It's it's not, you may have to look through dozens and hundreds before you find something that fits your needs. And so I think it's great that, especially on your first one, can you imagine what would have happened if you said, you know what, this is taking too long. I'm looking at too many. None of my offers are being accepted. Who knows how things would have turned out if you threw in the towel at that point. So I think it's pretty significant that you didn't give up at that point.
Yeah, big time. I think there's one of two things that can happen. One, just like you said, people will get up, they'll give up, they'll go through the process and realize, hey, this is taking too long, it's a little too hard, let me give up. Or they're saying, screw it, screw all the due diligence, right? Let me just buy something. And then those are the type of people that get a bad deal, have a bad interaction, right? And then they tell other people, don't invest in real estate, you're going to lose all your money. Don't do that, you're going to lose, take it from me, I tried it. And that's kind of one of the two things that happened. And it's funny that you mentioned a lot of people give up. That actually was me the very first time. So when I was a junior in college, when I was in ROTC, they give out this $25,000 loan. Now this was a 2000 and around 2010, 2011 in Orlando. Like the housing market was pretty much the bottom out, 2010-ish timeframe, right? I took that 25,000. I was like, look, man, I'm gonna go and buy a house. And I went to one bank and got rejected, and I gave up. And
Mm.
I didn't, because I had that experience, right? And after self-education, after talking to other people and getting to know how this thing really works and the other alternate ways of financing and other ways to do things, I then took that knowledge and applied it to that first property. So that had I not tried to buy a house back when I was in college, there might have been a chance I would have gave up on that first deal. So
Definitely, definitely. And then something else that you mentioned is that you put about 25,000 in rehab. So what was it like, just as being relatively new, doing a rehab and doing all those things? What was that like for you?
yeah, so it's a crazy story. So let me back up really quick. When I
Of
was
course.
in college, while after reading Rich Dad Poor Dad, I ended up going back to college and finishing it outright. But I joined ROTC because they paid for my education, and I made money in the process while going to school. Right. So during that time, I understood, hey, I'm still thinking Rich Dad Poor Dad in my mind. I'm still thinking like, hey, man, I got to do some kind of real estate. I got to buy some kind of asset. So I figured the best way to get a handle and get some real life experience is by going and working with someone that's actually, doing what I want to be doing. So wrote an ad on Craigslist, and I put in there, hey, I'm willing to work for free as long as I can learn, I just want to be on a job site essentially. So I got a lot of I was on a lot of job sites during my, my couple years in college after when I went back. And I got to see a lot of what went into renovations. Like they were flipping homes because, like I said, the only people that were in the game during that time, 2010 in Orlando, were people that had money and people that were flipping, right? So I got to go on a lot of those job sites, learn what the roof looks like, learn what quarter round and freaking what quarter round was, or anything in general, laying floors, all that stuff, hanging drywall, learned what all that was and what that looks like, and kind of understood what the prices were looking like, right? So that was a huge advantage when it came time to rehab my own house. So in doing that, I kind of lucked out. I already knew kind of how much I was going to spend, what I wanted to spend, and I kind of knew the process, right? And more importantly, I had some documents that would help protect myself from other contractors that because I saw some bad contractors, right? Um, so when I went to rehab my house, I kind of got lucky, and I ran into one of my friends from high school. We used to wrestle together, and he just so happened to be, a contractor. But even though he was my friend, I still, treated him just like a regular contractor, like you should, right? So I had my lien waivers. I had, that the exact schedule, how I was going to pay him, all those things. And I had my attorney look at it, and we made an agreement that way, instead of just, hey, you do this and I'll pay you this. I saw a lot of people get screwed over. But the process was fairly easy because he was one of my friends, also because I had all the documentation. I mean, we went in, changed the roof, we went in, painted, laid floors, changed kitchen cabinets, backsplash, like it just, the regular flip. And yeah, we did that, put a tenant in, and they paid $950 a month. And my cash flow like $150 or something like that. And yeah, it was a good deal.
That's awesome, man. I think one thing is also significant is you got experience. You essentially worked for free, but later down the road, it benefited you. You went into it a lot more knowledgeable. So I think that's another great aspect as well.
Yeah.
Um, so you mentioned also that you bought like this first property enabled you to buy um, your 4 units. Can you talk to us about that?
Yeah, so that first property, it gave me 65 G's. Like they just, it wasn't really 65 G's after the fees, the origination fees and things like that. It ended up being, I want to say, like it was like 60, something like that. But I never had that amount. I mean, this is, I'm what, 27, 27 years old. Like that was like the most money I'd had deposited in my account at any one given time.
Yeah,
So I had, part of me wanted to just kind of go blow some of it, blow some of it away. And,
yeah,
but instead I went and, took that money and bought a 4 unit. And the 4 unit that I bought was out of, it was about 4 hours away in Columbus, Georgia. Um, and same thing. I went and tried to build a team out there. Went there, visited a couple times, talked to some people, networked, and then ended up running across this really, really beat down 4 unit. But I did the analysis for it again. I'd walked through a bunch of properties, wrote a bunch of offers, and this one stuck. And it was just, I thought it was a banging deal, but it was so ugly and so run down that a lot of people just a lot of people just didn't want it. I just saw the potential in it.
yeah.
And it's just an awesome deal. It's actually my highest cash flowing deal right now. And so it's really good.
Wow, that's awesome. That's awesome. Did you find that one like through like Zillow or similar website as well?
Um, I think an agent brought that one to me. I'm
Got it.
pretty sure an agent brought that. I might have found it on Zillow, but I think an agent brought that one to me.
Got it. What was the process like rehabbing that one? It sounds like it was a lot. It sounds like it was pretty rough. Well, pretty rough
Yeah,
when you bought it.
that yeah. Um, we had to put about it was about 50 something thousand into it. But it was a relatively low purchase price. I mean, bought it for like 87,
Yeah.
put about 50 something into it. And the process was very hard. It was 4 hours away, and I'm still active duty the entire time. So I only can go there during the weekends, and I have a family. I'm At that time, my wife was in law school. And I had a toddler, and she was pregnant through law school, like through the first year. Like, she's a beast, right? But but yeah, so it was a lot going on, but we made it work. And I went through a lawsuit. It was supposed to be about a 4 month project. It ended up taking about 8 months. Went through a lawsuit, went through a lot with that. It was really stressful, right? But we got it done, got it complete, and it's just been a phenomenal property. Two Section 8 tenants, amazing tenants. Two other tenants, they're one of them I'm trying to get rid of, but but that's still it's just a great property. I need, you know, two tenants in, and I'm cash flowing. So it's nice.
That's awesome, man. And what made you choose Columbus, Georgia? Did you did you yeah, I guess what brought you to the city? Because you mentioned that you're living 4 hours away, so I'm curious to know, did you know anybody there? Were you familiar with the city at all?
Yeah, so Columbus is a big military town. It's Fort Benning, Georgia, which is kind of it's where the home of the infantry school, home of the armor school. It's you go to Ranger school there, airborne school, like all these. So it's a very big army community, right? So I have family members that live there, and obviously I'm familiar with the area. I actually lived. I forgot to mention I live there too. So
Oh, gotcha.
I'm familiar with the area. And that's really what brought me that. Plus, I was kind of chasing opportunity. I wanted to keep all of my properties located in one area, and I wanted to stay in Jacksonville. But when I said I kind of got fortunate when I bought that first single family, it just the home across the street sold for 110. Well, the about 2 months after I bought that home in Jacksonville, um, Jacksonville was on like the Forbes list for like five best cities to for real estate or something like that. And then for some reason in this area, people just started buying homes. I was ready. I was hoping to kind of buy that block, right? Like because it
Yeah.
was a little known secret. There wasn't people really buying there. But man, other investors, out of state investors, somebody like there was some people from China coming in, like it was crazy. There were overpaying for homes that the same home that I paid 25 for, the ones, down the street were selling for like 60 and 70. It just
Wow.
started to get out of hand. So I didn't see the benefit of trying to stay in that area. So at that point I was like, hey man, let me just chase opportunity, take my little 60 G's and and see what I can do somewhere else.
Definitely, man, definitely. And then as far as like military towns, would you say that is a good place for people to buy investment property?
Yeah, it all depends on your strategy, your individual strategy, and what you want to do. Typically, depending on the military base, right? So Fort Benning, for example, it's a schools oriented base. So there's a lot of turnover. Guys go to school for 6 months, maybe a year, and then they're out. So it really depends on what your strategy is, right? The the areas in Columbus that I buy are not a lot of the military don't live in those areas.
Yeah.
And one so it's great to have military tenants, right? They typically treat your home right. They treat it like it's theirs, no issue. But the only thing that sucks is, especially in a transient place like that, is if you come down on orders to move somewhere else. Well, if you give that to your landlord, you have to honor that. Like they break the lease you know without no issue. So now you're left in the middle of September trying to find a
Oh,
tenant, so
yeah.
it might stay vacant for a month, or you just don't know. So it's kind
Yeah.
of difficult. in some aspects. So there's some give and take there.
Got it. That makes sense. I didn't even think about that. That makes a lot of sense. So I guess where did your real estate endeavors overall? How did things? Where did it go from there? What was next for you?
Next, I bought, well, so after that first single family, I bought a 4 unit, and then I bought a couple other single families, and then I bought another 4 unit in Columbus. And then after that, I pretty much sold my single families, and now I'm just rocking with the 2 4 units right now. And at the same time, kind of took some time off. I'm trying to get into the syndication game, right? So I'm
Mhm.
buying larger deals. I'm taking my time and
Yeah.
really analyzing deals to make sure I get the right, I'm trying to get the right deal, right? At the same time, started building the military cash flow. So
Yeah.
to help other service members kind of do the same thing, teach about the VA loan, the FHA loan,
Yeah.
help other people kind of, build wealth and create cash flow for themselves while in the military. So
Absolutely. Absolutely, man. Is that second 4 unit also in Columbus?
yeah.
Oh, cool. Cool. You about to buy the whole city, man?
Maybe, yeah, we'll see.
Definitely. And so this episode is particularly unique. We've only had one other um, person from the services on the show. I believe his brother was in the Navy. But I think it's very important to like touch on this, like the VA loan and all everything, and also to highlight what you're doing because what I didn't realize in that previous interview, he was saying he didn't know about the VA loan. Like he was in the Navy, no one really said anything about it. He found out later on, so he wrote a book and everything. So I was shocked to hear that. And before that episode, I didn't really know about the VA loan, so I was just blown away. I'm like, using this thing can make you build an empire if you use it properly and strategically. So I guess can you talk more about that, like the VA loan and just the different things that being in the military could afford you in terms of like real estate and building wealth that way?
Yeah, the military, outside of serving your country and doing great things for the nation, right? You can definitely build wealth while in the military. I think that's a common misconception that it doesn't really get talked about a lot, and I think the reason is why is because you kind of mentioned it. It's not talked about in the military. We do not talk about finances, period, in the military. And I'm a finance officer, right? And then we don't
Yeah.
we don't talk about finances at all, like no kind of personal budget. I mean, they might do little simple things like, hey, don't go to a dealership and pay 18% for a car, but that's about the extent of financial education that we talk about in the military, and it kind of sucks. So I completely understand, or I could see how someone can go 15 years, 20 years in the military and never know about the VA loan, or never know about the advantages that come with using the VA loan. So just a quick bullet points on the VA loan. It's obviously it's for military. It's basically a 0% down loan product, right? So you can buy a home with 0% down, as long as it's a residential unit, and that could be a single family, it can be a duplex, triplex, or a quadplex, so up to 4 units. um, and the biggest thing is that you don't have to pay any PMI, that mortgage insurance, right? So with the FHA loan, you got to put 3.5% down, and then you're going to pay mortgage insurance depending on how the price of your home. It can be 200 to 300, $400, and that just doesn't go away, right? Well, there's no mortgage insurance with the VA loan, so it's just an awesome product for service members, and you can definitely take advantage of it. We've helped several service members literally buy duplexes and triplexes. And so what happens is they live in one side and they rent the other side. So they're living rent free. Now, on top of that, in the military, when you live off post, you get paid to live off post. So it's called basic housing allowance, BHA. So, or BAH, excuse me, basic allowance for housing. And it can be, depending on what your rank and how long you've been in the military, it could easily, and the area, of course, it could be a substantial amount. We're talking like $1,500 to $2,500 to live in, and higher than that. Like DC, I know some ranks in some areas are, they're getting $3,500, $4,000 literally to find a place to live, right? So
Wow.
imagine if you take, so I'm just going to give you the numbers for one of
Yeah.
the service members, or one of my soldiers that I legitimately helped.
Yeah.
She's an E5. She bought a duplex. This is back where I was stationed at before in Watertown. Bought a duplex. I want to say it was maybe $60,000 or something like that. She was able to live in one side and then rent the other side out for about 650, 700. Mortgage was like, I don't know, 400 or $500. So she's cash flowing like $100 a month. And then she's living for free. And then she's getting paid from the Army to live, right? So she get an
Wow.
additional like 14, 15, $1,600. I don't know what it is her rank is, what I don't have, there's a calculator. I just don't know it,
Yeah.
off the top of my head, but she's getting paid a certain amount to live there too. So it's just a triple win, and then after you PCS or after you move, right, you can do it again at a different duty station. You can do this multiple times. You can have multiple, VA loans. So it's just like I said, FHA loan on steroids, man. So
Yeah. Man, that's incredible. That's incredible. Have you ever used them for your personal residences?
I've used it twice. Yep.
That is
And then
clutch.
I can use it, and my wife can also use it. She's active Army as well. She's a JAG officer. So she does, like I said, she's an attorney. So she does the law stuff, and I do the finance stuff.
Got it. Got it. Did you two meet in the army?
We met in ROTC. So at
Got it.
UCF ROTC, yeah.
Got it. Got it. That's awesome. You've been rocking ever since.
Yeah, we've been rocking. We're like eight 8.5 years. Yeah, 8.5 years. We've been married. So
Wow, that's awesome, man. That's awesome. And so tell us about military cash flow and everything that that encompasses military cash flow and everything you do with that.
so military cash flow is a Black real estate dialogue for military people, right? So it's a fucking dope ass dope. Sorry, it's a dope podcast. We have a podcast. We have a YouTube channel. We have uh, a book out. My partner, Mike Glassby, just put out his book, The Elite Investor. Um,
Nice.
it's a great read. And we're just really honestly just out to help other service members understand and build wealth and create cash flow again through real estate. And a lot of that has to do with, we just don't talk about finances. We don't talk about wealth generation. We don't talk about that in our community, not just the military community, but the Black community. We typically don't talk about that a lot. And that's why I love this podcast so much, because you guys are literally out there truly changing lives, right? And we try to do the same thing in the military as well. So we're out there talking to service members, just trying to help out. We put out content, helping others understand that, hey, you can do this, you can do this. There are other service members that are doing this, and not just buying. I mean, it doesn't just stop at buying a single family or triplex or a quad. I mean, we got service members that are literally that have well over 1,000 units. You know what I mean? Like, these are guys are doing large syndications. So it's just an awesome group to be in. We got a Facebook group and all that stuff. We got like 2,000 service members on there, helping each
Wow.
other build wealth, share information. It's just great. I love being a part of the military cash flow. I mean, it's just been amazing. I can't say enough about it. So we can spend the whole podcast talking about it. But
Yeah, I would love to hear some more about it. So how when did it start?
so it originally started at I was in a captain's career course at Fort Jackson. This is where I lived, at Fort Jackson. I was there, and this captain's career course, it's basically a so we have phases in the military, especially as officers, right? So you have like education, right? You have your beginning education, and that's when you're going to lead like a platoon size element. And a platoon size element is like 40-ish people, right? So my first job was lead 40 people. I went to education there. So captain's career course, I'm now learning what it is to be a commander, right? And a commander typically leads units of 120, 120 service members, depending on what your field is, right? So in that class, we were giving presentations, and we got to talk about, the art of leadership and things like that. So the very first presentation assignment that we were given is, hey, literally just kind of break the ice. Tell us something about, something about yourself, something that you do, something you find interesting. And I talked about real estate. And after I gave that class, literally, I don't know, 10 to 15 people in my class came up and was like, hey, man, you should really make a video, or you should really should really share, because I didn't know that information. I didn't,
Yeah.
so so I did that, and I made this thing called Financial Freedom Journal. And it was first all about me, right? And that was just me documenting my experience. And then I was like, well, there's other people that could really, really, it's kind of similar to you. You're telling your story, right? But at the same time, you're helping others. You're inviting other guests on to tell their story so others can learn, right? So it's the same exact thing. And then brought on one of my buddies, Mike Glassby, who I met at the 10X Growth Conference, Grant Cardone's event down in Miami. Went down there, linked up with Mike Glassby. We stayed in contact, and then we talked for a bit, and then we were like, "Hey, man, I think we should. I would love to have you a part of this Military Cash Flow. I want to create this group, Military Cash Flow," and that's what we did. Create the group, got a website, got the Facebook group, started making YouTube videos, got the Instagram, got all that stuff. And then we started really networking with other service members, really showcasing what service members can do in the real estate realm, and how they can build cash flow while serving in the military, right? So there's a lot of people that are serving with no plan, right? They don't have a plan. They don't have an idea of what they can do. They're just kind of, again, living paycheck to paycheck. Well, we're just trying to offer, or at least um, instill some other type of knowledge, like, hey, you can build wealth while you're doing this at the same time, so.
Definitely, definitely. I will say the website is dope. The videos are dope. The content, the way it's created, I like it a lot. So I'm gonna take this opportunity to say that.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. We appreciate it.
Yeah,
We love the
definitely
Black Real Estate Podcast as well, man.
appreciate that. Man. So a couple things. One thing is, we mentioned it several times throughout the interview, is that it's not really spoken about in the military. Financial stuff, real estates, and so forth. But you have two choices, right? The first choice was like, all right, well, this is not being talked about. I'm here doing my thing, and I'm fine, whatever. But what you did was you collaborated with somebody to provide a solution. And you mentioned now, you have thousands of people who have this information, who can, utilize your services. You've probably forgot how many people you've helped by this point. But you are providing a solution. And so I think that is very commendable. And many times we're looking for a solution, or a way to improve things, and a lot of times it's within us. A lot of times, we have the information, we have the ability, we have the zeal for it. It's just a matter of going forth and starting. So I think it's great that you two did that.
Yeah, man. Thanks. I appreciate it. And I know you're doing the same thing, dude. I know you're getting the same type of fulfillment. I'm sure you get a lot of messages in your DMs about, how many people you've helped. I literally just opened up and had a message in my Instagram right before this, of
Yeah.
a service member who reached out to us a couple times, and now he's like, "Hey, I just want to thank you. I'm closing on my duplex next week. This is what I plan to do." And I was like, immediately, I'm inviting that guy on the podcast, dude. Like it's
Yeah.
just, and this guy's an E4, so he's probably been in the Army for maybe 2 years. You know what I mean? 2-3 years. So excuse me, he's not in the Army. He's in the Marines.
Mhm.
But it's just so amazing, dude. Like
Yeah.
the information that you're putting out can literally change someone's life, right? If you guys are listening to this and you apply this information, you apply this knowledge, dude, you can literally change your life, and not just your life, the life of those around you, just through them seeing you do it, just through inspiration, right? And then also you can change the lives of literally your entire legacy. If you really think about that for a second, you buy that first duplex, and then you start buying other assets and you build this portfolio that you can then pass on to your children, and not just the actual hard assets themselves, the actual knowledge, right? The understanding of how to build wealth, how to create wealth from nothing, right? Man, imagine if we got this information growing up. right? Imagine how
Yeah.
deadly, how lethal we would be, right?
Oh yeah.
It's just crazy. So, I mean, if you're listening to this and you need some kind of inspiration um, on why you should not just invest in real estate, but just become I'm not gonna say an entrepreneur, buy assets, on why you should buy assets or try to figure out how to create wealth, bro, just sit down and really just close your eyes and think about that for a second. Think about how you can legitimately impact your life, the lives of those around you, and then also your entire legacy just by, taking action. That it's just wild to me.
Definitely, definitely. Um, and so let's say I'm in the Marines. Someone's in the Marines. They come to you. They're like, "Hey, I need help. I want to do this VA loan thing or get some property. Like, what does that look like for someone who's interested in you helping them out?"
So, I mean, honestly, like I like to I really do like to help people for free. I understand, okay. I have a course. We have a course called the Military CashFlow Real Estate Investing course. And in that course, we literally compiled every single thing that we've done. Literally, I'm telling you, we give you all the forms, we give you the lien waiver, we give you the contracts that we use for our contractors. We show you, we talk about goal setting, finding your why, finding your investment strategy, right? Your type of strategy, because everybody's not the same, right? So we try to dial in on that. And then we also talk about how to find a property, how to build your team, how to analyze a deal. We made calculators. We literally everything that you can think of on how to use how to use the VA loan, what to do. We've literally made a course for that, right? We've packaged it all up. We have it on the website, militarycashflow.com. And that's what we can easily offer. And then also we have the coaching and things like that. And I understand, we do like to make we do like to make money, but at the same time, we just like to help people out. So if someone literally comes up to me and is like, "Hey, how can I," or hits me up in my IG and like, "Hey, I got this situation," I'm probably going to just reply and be like, "Yeah, XYZ, this is what you can do." You know what I mean? I think that we've sold a really good number of courses. We're doing pretty well with the courses and the books and all that stuff. But I probably have given out the course more than
Yeah,
giving. I mean, I've given out to every single one of my soldiers for free. You know what I mean? So the books I think we just really enjoy helping people. The money's the byproduct, right?
yeah,
But I have to say that I would feel remiss if I didn't say, hey, we do offer a course. But
yeah,
at the same time, dude, we just love helping people. So if you hit me up, if you're a Marine, you're coming, you're like, hey, what do I need to do? Blah 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 blah. I'm probably just going to tell you. Yeah, I probably will mention the course, but I don't care if you do or don't buy it. You know what I mean?
yeah.
So yeah.
Definitely, definitely. And how involved is your wife and family in what you got going on with military cash flow, real estate, and everything?
So my wife and I are a unit. All right. So everything we do, we talk about, we do together. We're actually trying to buy another duplex, or my wife is going to use her VA loan. That's another thing. If you're married to another service member, I can use a VA loan multiple times, and also so can she. So
Wow.
if you play it right, you know what I mean. I can buy three comfortably. I could probably buy three under my name, and she can comfortably probably buy three under her name. So that's six instead of coming jointly together. That's just a quick tip there. But we're very involved together. It's not just real estate; it's a partnership, through and through. So we talk about finances. We sit down and we do our budget. A couple days before the first, couple days before the 15th. You know what I mean? We talk about where we're spending our money, how we're spending our money, and we talk about savings for the kids, how they're going to do stuff, and we try to put this information out to our family as well. Every single job or every single renovation that I've done, I've had my family on the job site, whether it be my cousins, my nieces, my nephews. Okay, come swing some hammers with me. Or usually I don't do the rehab, but just in my opinion, just being exposed to that information, right? Being exposed to what that looks like, that goes such a long way. And I think that's what we're missing. And I think that's one thing that's going to really, really help us in the Black community. And that's why I love what you're doing. I love what you, Andre Hatchett, I see like he's going to be coming on podcast here soon. He's been on podcast before. I think he's been on yours as well, right?
Yeah,
Yeah. So I love what you guys are doing. And I think just that exposure goes a long way. So my wife is very, very involved. My whole entire family is very involved. I actually just came from Jacksonville. We were rehabbing my mom's house, doing a light rehab on my mom's
nice.
house, laying floors, painting, baseboards, quarter round, all that stuff. So I'll probably post it up here soon, actually, on my IG. Um, but yeah, we're very, very, very involved. Not just the wife, but the entire family. Because if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, bring a team, right? And your team is your family. So.
Definitely, definitely. And so, what does the future look like for military cash flow, for what you want to do with the business, what you want to do with real estate? I know you mentioned previously getting into syndication, so just love to hear more about what you have planned for the future.
So my partner Mike Glassby is a freaking rock star. He's just a monster, right? So he's doing syndication. He's got 2 hotels. Like the dude's just a
Wow.
monster. So bringing him on to adding him to the military cash flow, like having him as a guest on the podcast, and a co-owner of military cash flow. It's very, very beneficial for for the company, right?
Yeah.
So I say that because a lot of the things that he's already doing syndication. That's kind of the way that I'm trying to go as well, right?
Mhm.
So we just finished up our real estate course. My wife and I did the state portion, or excuse me, the pre-licensing portion for our real estate course. So we're studying for, and we'll be taking the test here within the next 3 weeks or something. So we'll have our real estate license. We're also starting a wholesale operation. And like 2021, this is the year of partnership, right? So I'm partnering with other people to create something, even though I'm getting a small portion of it, or just a portion of it. It's still, it all kind of goes within the wheelhouse. So we're kind of building out different spokes of military cash flow. We have obviously the podcast, and these are all kind of cash flow channels as well. So making money from podcasts, YouTube, wholesaling, syndication. There's just different ways to continue making cash flow, right?
Yeah.
So that's kind of the future for military cash flow. That's kind of the future for my wife and I. Will continue to invest and buy assets. Like I said, we're trying to get a duplex. We're trying to get a multifamily here in Savannah right now, and did the pre-approval. We're just looking for the right thing. We're doing a few things. Ultimately, just trying to design our lifestyle the way that we want, right? So yeah.
Definitely, definitely. So I have a two-part question. So what advice would you give to someone who's in the military who's interested in real estate? They just don't know where to start, what they're supposed to do. So the first question is, what would you tell to that person? And the second question is just, the average person who's also interested and heard about this real estate thing, but just like, all right, what do I do now? From your perspective, like, what would you say to those two people?
If you're military, without a doubt, I'm going to say go to militarycashflow.com. Go to militarycashflow.com, join the Facebook group, start networking. Literally, there are over 2,000 service members that are on there giving advice daily, right? And these aren't just like random people. They're not just giving advice, they're asking questions, right, for the group to learn, right? So they're asking any question that you can think of has probably been asked on the group. And if it hasn't asked a question, you're going to get responses. You're going to get responses from myself. You're going to get responses from Mike, all the other guests that have been on our podcast. Again, we've talked about several service members or past service members who have well over 1,000 units, right? They're on there, they're active. So that's the one thing that I would say. And that's all part of self-education, right? Self-education and networking. That's the very first thing that you kind of need to do if you're before taking action, right? One, change your mindset. Two, self-educate. Three, start taking action, right? So if you're asking me, I already understand. I already know that your mind is made up, and that's something that you want to do. So the next step is self-education. You can do that by networking, and like I say, go to militarycashflow.com, check out the information, check out the stuff. Got the courses available, all that stuff. and just go from there. If you need to, hit me up, and that's pretty much it there. Now, the regular person, any other average person, I tell them to the same exact thing. So if you ask me, I already know you have your mind made up. I'm going to give some great resources. All right, you got the Black Real Estate Dialogue. All right, you got Bigger Pockets. You got there's just a plethora of books, like a long list of books that you can read, right? It's just so much information out there. It's ridiculous. You got YouTube channels, like there are people that are talking about, there are people that are doing and talking about the exact same thing that you want to do. You know, what are you doing to engage with those people? What are you doing to learn from those people, right? So that's kind of where I'd send them.
Definitely, definitely. And do you have any resources you recommend? Books? You mentioned your course. Anything that people should keep in mind or that you've used that you recommend others check out?
Yeah, courses. So I've taken some pretty expensive courses. I'm not gonna say,
No, I meant
I'm
like
not gonna
I know
say.
like I guess your course, and then if you like, you can mention like other books and resources as well.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. So, other resources, books that I've read that I'm more of a mindset guy.
Yeah,
So the books that I like to read are like 10X, 10X Rule by Grant Cardone. I like, obviously Rich Dad Poor Dad. I like, The Go Giver by, I think his name, I'm not sure what his name is. I like, Richest Man in Babylon. I like, Think and Grow Rich, you know, uh, How to Win Friends and Influence People, all those kind of like mindset ish books are that's kind of where I like to live in. As far as the application, right? The actual, hey, this is how you do something. I typically take a course. I have no problem paying for a course. I paid I didn't pay a bunch of money. The military paid a bunch of money for me to go to school, right? For my traditional education. But it pales in comparison to what I can learn out of you know, a $15 book. You know what I mean? Like I can learn, this is more valuable to me than my entire college education, right? Um, so because it teaches you how to build wealth, like literally action steps teaches you how to build wealth, right? And those are the things that those are the resources that I like to use, podcasts and listening to books, and I'm reading books, and I'm paying for courses.
definitely, definitely. Is there anything else that you want to share with the listeners?
No, not really. It's been a pleasure being on the podcast, talking to your audience. Again, I just love everything you guys are doing, dude. Like seriously, thank you. So hey, and if you're listening to this and you haven't left Sam a 5-star review on whatever podcast you're listening to, or hit a like button or something like that, dude. I think you'll at least that much with the amount of value that this guy's giving out. It's kind of crazy. So.
Appreciate that, man. And where can the people find you if they want to keep in touch with you and follow what you're doing?
You can just go to militarycashflow.com, militarycashflow.com, or you can just look me up. I'm on IG. I'm on pretty much every platform, or every I guess really just LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram. Those are what I'm personally most active in. But again, if you can just write me an email, look me up, send me a message, whatever you want to do, I'll respond back. So.
Definitely, definitely, man. This has been a really great interview. I think it's just great, just thinking about where you started at. Buying that property in Jacksonville. Saving money for several years, just knowing you wanted to get something. And lo and behold, the property across the street appraised for 110. You're able to kind of use that money, and the rest was kind of history. And also what you're doing with military cash flow, giving back and making sure that those who are serving have an opportunity in the information, and building a community of people who are empowered to now build wealth. So, man, it's been a pleasure chatting with you, and I really do appreciate you coming on the interview. And I'm sure our listeners will find a whole lot of value out of this one.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Sam. I really appreciate the opportunity to come on.
Definitely, definitely. Well, thank you everyone for listening to another episode of the Black Real Estate Dialogue podcast. Definitely keep in touch with us if you'd like to get immediate updates on what we have going on, text BRED to 21,000. If you'd like to support us by becoming an official patron, find us at patreon.com/Black Real Estate Dialogue. I look forward to hearing from you all soon.